Oh, hi there, it's Falcore here and welcome back to my channel. So it's been a while and it's good to see you all. I'm feeling really good and today I've got a review for you of a musical that I just went to see last night. As you guys all know, if you watch me, I live in Nottingham and there is a theatre company here called Copper Studios. They're a performing arts school and I think they kind of act as like an agency for all of the kids that they have. And they very kindly invited me along to see their production of 13 the musical. So as I said, Copper Studios, it's a performing arts school and they've got loads of talented kids who can sing, act, dance, all the performing. They are freaking awesome. And I'm pretty sure that one of their cast members, she's called Mae Evans, and she was in Matilda on the West End, I believe, last year, because I'm pretty sure that I saw her at West End live. I only actually saw Matilda this year, so she wasn't in it when I went to see it, but yeah, amazing. They invited me and I took a quick look at their YouTube channel, which I've put a link for in the description. Please go and have a look. They've got loads of cool content on there where they're doing performances from like all kinds of musicals and all sorts of things, and I just was like, oh my god, these kids are amazing. I absolutely have to see them, and I just was like, yes, please, sign me up. So I saw the 7:30 performance of 13 the musical last night at the Space Theatre, which is the first time I've been to the Space. It's like part of a school, I believe, and what a cool venue. It's like really like, I mean, it seems like practically brand new, it's really modern, and also the seats are really comfy, which as someone who goes to the theatre a lot and sits in a lot of old theatres are notoriously uncomfortable, so like, what a pleasant surprise. So just a little bit of background if you don't know. So 13 the musical is a musical by Jason Robert Brown, which I was aware of, and it's the story of Evan Goldman, who moves from New York to small town Indiana in the wake of his parents getting a divorce. Very sad. So he's preparing to have his bar mitzvah, and it's kind of the story of him navigating sort of complicated relationships at a new high school in a new smaller town, and essentially he's trying to get all the popular kids to come to his bar mitzvah party, essentially. First of all, first thoughts on 13 the musical. So I'd heard a couple of the songs in the past, but didn't kind of obviously know it very well. I'd heard of the concept of the show all being with like actual teenagers in the cast, and I think the original Broadway production even had teenagers like performing in the band. This particular production was a band of adults, but that's fine because the kids were all amazing. And yeah, first impressions, the songs, really great, like really cool, memorable, kind of like pop rock sort of like anthems kind of thing. It's got a really great script, full of really like slick humor, and to be honest, like the whole story like as a piece is just a really interesting insight into like 12 to 13 year olds like relationships and like what goes on with that, and clearly they're much more serious than I remember, because when I was that age, like I don't think like those things were going through my head, so some of the things was a lot more surprising than I was expecting for that kind of age group, but it was honestly hilarious and we just laughed so much. So the cast in this, all the cast from Copper Studios, honestly, like I'm not just saying it because they're kids, genuinely, you know, for all of their ages, and also for some of their ages, wow, some of them are like pretty darn incredible, and I can see why some of them have been on the West End clearly before, because they're fantastic. Especially, I've got to point out the young lad who played Archie, which was a little boy in a wheelchair. He was played by a lad called Harry Steele. His comic timing was like so perfect. Like he was the one who got like all the biggest laughs because he was just so like on it, so perfect. Great with his expression, great with how he like characterized the whole role, and also beautiful little voice, fantastic. He was so cool. I could totally see Harry playing Ogie in Waitress because I feel like he has the comedy that like role really requires. So when he gets a bit older, if Waitress is still running in the West End, which I hope it is, I could totally see you, Harry, going into that kind of a role, because you've definitely got the comedy and you've got the voice, the whole package. Mae Evans, as previously mentioned, who plays Patrice. Just what a star. And like, as I say, as I think I'm aware that she's played Matilda on the West End, it's really interesting seeing her in a role like this compared to Matilda, because I feel like she's really demonstrated, me having like, you know, seen Matilda and understanding the largeness of that kind of a role and how much she kind of, you know, takes up the stage, she moves around, it's very physical, that's how that like character is. But Patrice in 13 was much like shyer, she's meek, and I feel like Lily Mae's performance definitely portrayed that. And like, as I say, interesting to see that, knowing what she's played previously. So I guess it demonstrates her kind of like acting chops, as it were. So really impressed with that. And her voice is so powerful. She's so small. She's the tiniest little girl ever, but her voice just fills the room. She is totally a star. William Horner, who plays Evan, the sort of lead character. If you're wondering what I'm reading off, is that I like basically made some notes. So I'm reading off my notes on my phone and my notepad. So yeah, I think he did a really great job of carrying the story in this, and he's got a really lovely voice. I feel like he had like quite a big range in terms of, there was a couple of like moments in some of the songs where he had to go quite like high and quite soft, and then others where he had to obviously be more like kind of powerful and really like, you know, either way, he kind of like drives the story on. And I also do think the chemistry between him and Patrice was really good, and also really still had, you know, the innocence that I think it needs to have for 13-year-olds, and why all the jocks and the popular kids were all talking about, you know, kissing with tongues and la 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 and like second base, third base. I feel like actually Patrice and Evan are much more in their age, and like that kind of chemistry was nice to see, and also is what you want to see from 13-year-olds on stage, to be honest, because anything further than that would just be weird. And also I really want to shout out to the lad, I believe it's either Louis or Lewis, depending, Louis Chadburn, who played, he was Brett, and he also played the rabbi as well, because one, he had a great voice, which I don't think he like kind of gets to use as much in this particular show. But as the rabbi especially, there was a part in the second act when he kind of like comes out from behind the curtains, and that bit really genuinely had me like laughing so hard. And also when he was also playing Brett, there's a part during the song called Tell Her, when Evan and Patrice are singing about what he should say to get the girl back that he wants, but they're actually singing to each other, and he's like trying to make notes on his arm, and he's standing in between them, and they're obviously getting quite emotional, and he's kind of starting to realize, and he makes these facial expressions that just, because it's quite like a sort of, you know, intense romantic moment, but he kind of like cuts right through the middle of it with these hilarious facial expressions that I loved it so much. He was just so great. So that's the kind of lead people that I just want to focus on, but also just to say that the rest of the ensemble, everyone bringing it together, like genuinely a really strong cast of kids. Like, they're all so incredibly talented. If I've got to nitpick about something about this production that I saw, and unfortunately I do have to do it, not everything's always perfection, but it's a tiny thing, and it's just, you know, as somebody who has worked on productions, who works in film production as well, and I understand the limitations of possibly budget, you know, availability of equipment and what you have to hand, but essentially this production definitely, they were experiencing a lack of microphones. So you could definitely tell during seeing changes and when the cast were coming on and off, the microphones would be swapped out between the different like roles, and there was obviously lots of parts where the ensemble cast members had lines in the sort of like big ensemble numbers, and they would be really funny, and they are really funny, and all of them were really great at like playing all their parts, having all their lines, having all their moments. But the problem is that if they didn't have a microphone, they were trying to sing over the powerful live band, who, by the way, were amazing. That live band utterly fantastic, flawless, perfect. The music was so great. But yeah, so they were fighting without microphones over the music and obviously over the other cast members who had the microphones, and if they had to sing by themselves. I was really lucky, I was in the 4th row, so I could hear the kids and I could hear them whether they had a microphone or not. Less so, obviously, but the people at the back definitely, almost certainly wouldn't be able to hear them, and that's just, you know, a technical limitation that happened, and that was just a shame, really, because I know that there was some great comedy moments that everyone else got to have that just the people at the back of the room probably just missed out a little bit. So that's one thing that just kind of made me sad, but it really is, by the by, a technical thing, and if they could afford to have more microphones, I'm sure they would, but you know, needs must. So, like, rounding that up, just to remind all the cast, that aside, the cast were all just so great, super talented, and, you know, I had heard some of the songs from this show. I think I'd heard Carrie Hope Fletcher had performed the song, like, about what a friend is. I've heard that, I think it was on her album, and plus I think I'd heard her do that live at something. She performs it quite often, so I'd heard that, and I knew the concept of the show, like I say, but I didn't really know the story in full. I didn't know all the songs, and I have to genuinely say I loved it, and I'm so excited to hear that it's becoming a Netflix original movie, which is going to be fantastic, and I look forward to seeing that. But yeah, I loved it so much, and this particular production, as I say, you know, any limitations that they might have had, you know, I think they did such a good job with everything, with the way it was set up, with the way they had the band. All the kids were great. The lead kids were just wonderful. And also, the lighting I thought was really great, really well put together, really well timed, very much like, I think it's easy with, you know, slightly more amateur productions perhaps, to go a bit crazy with your lighting and make it feel amateur in terms of someone gets carried away because they can flash lights, and this production absolutely does not. It's a thing I hate, because when you are watching a production, obviously there is an escapism element about it and you can be creative and do interesting things, but you do have to remember that at certain times and throughout key points of a show, especially when you're portraying something in you know, like a natural, like, environment, as it were. Like, you do not want lights flashing and going crazy all the time. I know what I mean. I'm sure people who might know what I mean, but yeah, I often feel like less is more is the approach that should be taken, and I've seen a couple of productions recently, professional ones, like The Colour Purple at the Curve Theatre in Leicester, where I thought the lighting was absolutely dreadful. Sorry about that. So yeah, great choreography as well. And clearly these guys, they know what they are doing, because I've seen professional productions that were much worse. So the production, it ran at the Space Theatre in Nottingham. It was on Friday the 1st and it's on Saturday the 2nd as well. So I'm just sad that whoever watches this is not going to get to go along to be able to see the show as well, because it's such a short run. But all I would say is that if you get the chance to go and see anything put on by Copper Studios, I would absolutely recommend that you go and see them. They're such a talented bunch of kids, and to be honest, they need all the support that we can possibly give them, because they are the future of our theatre. And when we've got, you know, youngsters in that kind of a company who are going on to be in West End productions, even now when they're so young, they've got the potential to go so much further as they get older, and like, I am absolutely hands down up for supporting that. And I got invited to go along to this particular one, but I will happily pay to see any of their shows from now on, because now I know all about them and I'm hooked. We'd had a bit of a rubbish week this week, to be honest, and it was literally the best end and highlight to a bit of a naff week that we had. So we left on a high, singing all the songs, and I now am obsessively listening to the Broadway cast recording because I love it. So Copper Studios, everyone involved, you absolutely smashed it. So that's it for my little review. If you do get the chance to see anything by Copper Studios, like I said, please do go and see them. The link to their YouTube channel is in the description. Go and check out their videos because they're really cool. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, remember to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you're not subscribed already. So thank you so much for watching, okay? I love you, goodbye! Mwah. Also, it's really good to be back. Just wanted to add that in there. More to come soon. See you later.